Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, and the time is 5:33 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order, and we are convening into work session in the first floor conference room, and the public is invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much.
Salad. Oh, okay. I ordered a meal. I didn't know that salad was this big, so I was like,
Oh, that's still in there? Oh, okay.
I didn't know they come like this, so.
Well, you know, they just opened. They reopened. Oh, really? It's a different ownership. Yes. Okay.
There are a lot of people at the senior center today, Neville? Kevin, there are a lot of people at the senior center?
There were a lot of people. I just ran in I was trying to track down my mom. And so found out she was there, but they were
I
having.
know my mom is coming there for lunch too.
All right, everybody, let's get started.
Hi, Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. The time is 5:35 p.m. and we are moving into work session of the Coppell City Council. We have 5 items on the agenda tonight. The first one is discussion of regarding the agenda items themselves. Just a note, the minutes of for approval of the minutes, we're going to be approving our winter work retreat minutes only. So I think the agenda says items from the January 24th, or the agenda is actually written incorrectly, so we'll have to pull that. We'll approve them at the next meeting. But we will be approving the meeting minutes from the work session. Was that clear? If it's not, I'll let Ashley explain it. Everybody okay?
I'm
Are you good? Are you good with the
good.
agenda item?
Can y'all wait for me?
No? Are you ready?
No. Okay. I'm good.
All right, let's move on. Item B is discuss the City of Coppell and the Coppell Arts Center Foundation partnership and the proposal by the Douglas Institute of Arts Management. Mr. Land.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. We have this evening, where's Greg? Greg's back here in back. So Greg's got my right side, Janine's got my left side, so somehow or another I should stay between the lanes, I'll be okay. So the previous chair of the Arts Foundation, when working with the arts, and this was even prior to us opening, had brought forward this the group, the VOS group, to take a look at how to maximize both the foundation and its contribution to the Arts Center, and how to work with the resident companies. At the time when that was brought up, we weren't open yet, and so the feeling around the table was, hey, let's take a pause on doing this study, because it's a little bit premature, because we need to really see what the operations are going to be and how people are going to interact and how it's going to be used, how rehearsals are going to go, how the shows are going to go, how the presenting shows are going to go, what the attendance looks like for the resident companies and so forth. So, we just completed that first year back in, I guess, August, September, and we're in our second season. And several months ago, the Arts Council meets with Janine and Greg at the time as the chair. Lee Walker is now the chair of the Arts Foundation. And during the course of that conversation, Janine brought up that the user agreements, have to use the right terminology, the user agreements which are in place come up in 2024. And so Janine wanted to start the conversation about scheduling and fees, just in general, right? In terms of what's going on. And so the resident companies kind of had to take a breath, right? In terms of, okay, something's getting ready to change. And wanted to make sure that they had plenty of time to adjust accordingly, because as they recognize, they submit their budgets in the spring for going into the next season. And Janine reminded them, well, this is about planning for 24, and how do we start getting ready for 24? So out of that discussion, the DeVos study came back up as far as, okay, well, here's an opportunity, because the foundation, so I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but the foundation approached the resident companies and said, hey, might there be a partnership with the resident companies where the foundation becomes the primary source for raising funds, so that then you as the resident companies, and this is primarily Coppell Theater, the orchestra, the chorale, right? It's primarily those. The creatives do a great job hanging the art and calling for the art and that type of thing. They're different, right, in terms of what's going on. They're very integral to the success, but they are different. What about if we took that kind of position, so that then you can concentrate on the art and, you know, what you do and your own operations? And my understanding is the response was, we would love to explore that. So therefore, DeVos, I guess Greg and them got back in contact with DeVos and said, okay, we need to update the proposal so that we can bring this forward. So the proposal, as I identified in the memo, and you had a copy of it to take a look at it, addresses, or will address through interviews with not only the resident companies, but with the foundation and with the council. So there's that kind of conversation that goes on. And then there's interviews with the Art Center. And then there's this, if you will, a marriage of these different ideas and everything. And then they would come forward with different recommendations as far as, okay, this is how this could look for the partnership, and this is how the agreements need to be structured, and they be able to do that. This is the relationship between the foundation and the city, because, you know, from a success standpoint, we need the foundation to be successful in their fund development, separate and apart from what they're doing for the resident companies in terms of bringing funds and support to the Art Center. So that's why this proposal is coming forward to you now. So this is not something, so Mark wrote me yesterday and he said, did we talk about this before? And it's like, no, we haven't talked about it before. My memo, I teased him, I said, you couldn't read my mind when I said, based on the direction that you give tonight is what my intent was. If you give us direction, it'll be on the agenda on February 28th, because you see that the study itself it'll take it all the way through May. And that'll give actually y'all time and the resident companies as we get into the budget, if there's any recommendations that are dealing with or impacting the budget for next year, because, you know, we have the July workshops and everything along those lines. So we still have time to adjust accordingly, even while they go through their regular submissions this spring. So we'll have time to adjust accordingly. So, Greg, I'm going to turn to you now. Is there anything in the story that I may have left out, or would you like to add?
Just for some context and some overall color, we did start thinking that DeVos could add some value at the very beginning of the foundation, the formation of the foundation. Penelope had worked with them before, the very prestigious firm that part of the University of Maryland. They work with municipally owned arts centers and performing arts centers across the country. And originally we thought, you know, it would help to kind of sort out roles and responsibilities. I mean, it's clear, you guys have probably encountered this. There's a little bit of confusion about what does the Arts Center Foundation do versus the Arts Council versus the resident companies versus the city, the Arts Center staff. And people get confused about who am I giving to now and what do those funds go towards. And even as we were scheduling the gala in October, it was the weekend after the Sip and Stroll, which the Arts Council puts on. And so they were concerned about us cannibalizing some of their historical sponsors. And so that's when the conversation about, you know, what their fundraising needs were, and does it make sense to have two different entities trying to do fundraising for the arts in Coppell. And maybe there is a way that we can work together. And they're very open to that. I think they would love nothing more than to focus on their art and leave the fundraising up to somebody else, if somebody else, could take that on. So that's what led us to kind of dust off the proposal and revisit it. And, it also, I think, it becomes important that the Arts Center is in the right spot to really be able to receive that, because it's going to take some work. And the first year that we were in business was probably not the time to invest extra time in, towards this project. But now I think all parties feel like we're in a good spot to do that. So we think it's a great idea. We think it would help sort out the roles and responsibilities. And they're also, one of the deliverables is also more specific fundraising support, like a plan, and even going so far as to identify prospects for fundraising for the foundation.
Right. Having said that, now I'm going to look over to Janine. Janine, was there anything that you would want to add right now, or we want to wait and just?
Right now, both of you covered all the points in the scope of the project.
Okay, great. Well, that gives you the overview. Like I said, you have the agreement, and now we're just looking to see what the interest is of the council to move forward with that. So be happy to do our best in answering questions. Mark?
Excuse me.
Why is this being pulled from the general fund as opposed to like the hot tax?
Well, the hot tax for this year, because of all the projects that we've kind of lined out for this year, we've gotten to the 15%.
Ah, okay.
Right? It could come out of the CRDC. From a timing standpoint, though, then we have to get the TRC, the CRDC. Remember how we said we'd like to present projects to the CRDC first, at least let them know? Well, we hadn't talked to the CRDC. We came to y'all first because of the timing of all of this. If it's something that you tell us this evening, that's where you'd like to pull it from, we can do that. We also have, we have contingency funds in the current budget that wouldn't even require us to tap into the general fund, unreserved, undesignated fund balance. So the funding mechanism, there's multiple options that are available to us.
Don?
One clarification, you talked about the contingency funds, are we talking about just cushion built into the existing budget, this year's budget? Is that what you're meaning?
Yes, but it's not, there's projects that are identified, some have savings and those types of things, and so it's something that I would work with Kim on. It's like, okay, where do we have budget savings, and then we could do it that way.
But we think the route would actually be
Yes.
55
Yes.
in that type of thing, even without tapping into the
Right.
existing general fund, okay.
Kevin?
He asked a really good question. I was going to ask the exact same question. Well done.
Was then you're done?
You're done?
Yeah.
John?
Mike, you said this was actually talked about bringing, I guess, the company DeVos. When?
Gosh, it was prior to the opening. It was when the foundation was just forming, so that would have been 1920. It was 19. I'm looking because all of it runs together with COVID.
No, it was between 20 and 21.
Okay.
When the proposal came to us, it was probably summertime of 21.
Okay. Yeah, because we hadn't even had our inaugural show yet. And that was also, I failed to mention, it's kind of important. Both Penelope and Alex left at about the same time. Penelope taking over because of her job, she wanted to do that, and Alex took a new job. So that was another reason, because we were trying to get open, we were in a state of flux, and it wouldn't have been a good time to kick off one more thing. So, thank you.
So, just to get a clarification, the rationale for any changes in the current structure, what are we talking about, the structural changes?
Well, there's currently, if you recall the presentation that Janine did back in August, or I think it was in August, and I'll just use Coppell Theater because that was the one that kind of put up on the board. Currently, we're in essence not charging the resident companies to cover any of our expenses. So this idea of not tomorrow, not in the next 12 months, but this idea of what kind of fee structure would we need to have, or could we have, and working with the resident companies. And then that ties in actually to the foundation as far as their fund development and fundraising. Because while I say we, they make presentations individually to y'all now each year, right, from a budget standpoint. The idea would be that the foundation would be making a single request and then distributing the funds to the art groups. Does that make sense?
And that's with the art group discretion, or in other words, it's a lump sum that they'll be asking, and it's.
Well,
it's
they
the
would provide the
discretion,
backup material like they do now. It's just that you wouldn't have the orchestra making a presentation, the chorale making a presentation, or Coppell Theater making a presentation, or Texas Ballet.
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, Ben Stevenson. The ballet group making an individual. So they would, I'm presuming that this is what the recommendation is going to be, that they would be running their fund development requests through the foundation. The foundation would have all that backup material when they make their request to us, and so it's just one request.
And we would cover as much as we could
Right.
from our own fundraising.
Right. But the idea, so just to clarify even more, the idea would be, I'm playing a what if now, so dangerous. I think the Coppell Theater, 150,000.
All the groups together
Oh.
was about, expenses $140,000 a year to operate them
Okay.
for rehearsals
All
and
right.
shows.
So then I look to Greg and say, okay, Greg, this is what, and Janine looks to Greg, or Lee now, and says, okay, this would be a target for y'all, right, in terms of fundraising. And so they would go out to help raise the funds, and then they raise those funds, and then and on behalf of the resident companies, then that money would then come to the Arts Center.
Okay.
That's why it's a partnership. There has to be really tight communications about what's going on. Does that help you?
Yeah, I remember Janine talking about structure, and I know it wasn't just the funding structure that she had
It's
mentioned.
the scheduling as well.
Right, and so I was wondering if that's also part of that.
That's part of it as well. And she is starting to work through some scheduling issues now. Matter of fact, I guess they meet next Sunday, and they're going to have to be starting having those discussions. But that's all wrapped together, because then that goes to how do you maximize the revenues of the Arts Center and still honor our resident companies.
So the follow-up question is then, would this happen better to have had this initiative before we actually decided on bringing on additional staff, or?
No,
How
the
was-
additional
how was
staff,
this gonna be?
yeah, when she laid out the additional staff, that had to do with actually what it takes to run the Arts Center, right?
Regardless of what the restructuring is?
Regardless of what the restructuring is, because of, the commitment to presenting shows. I understand, and by the way, thank you. I understand you helped move boxes. But that's what that additional staffing is for, right? As far as with the shows and the scheduling that we have now, the scheduling, I don't want to presuppose, but the scheduling is such that when Janine goes to APAC in January, and she's trying to book shows right now, because the resident companies have their dates.
Sure.
She's not able to bring in certain shows that are passing through. So by adjusting on the resident side, still honoring, there may be a way for her to be able to bring those shows in, which then helps maximize the revenue. Okay, Brianna?
I just wanted clarity on the request. So anything that would fall under the arts would go to the foundation and not come through the city for grants? Is that what we're saying? Or,
So let me restate it.
okay,
And so right now, we have multiple resident companies
Yeah.
make individual requests to the council, and y'all go through and hear individual requests. I think the idea is that through the partnership between the resident companies and the foundation, that they will work together. Those requests would go to the foundation, right, in terms of whatever they are. The foundation then would, in the spring, make the request for the, in this case, the hot funds.
Oh, and look at it
And look at
holistically.
it holistically.
Okay, gotcha. And then that way we wouldn't have the individual requests.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And then the sidebar to that is Janine working with the foundation. Let's just say for last year, let's use last year, it was $140,000. She's also feeding that to the foundation to say, okay, it's one thing for them to be requesting the hot funds. From a strategy standpoint, though, here's the big picture.
Gotcha. Okay.
Plus the foundation also sponsorships, or presentations, I should say. They work
Right.
themselves into that as well.
Gotcha, okay. I was just trying to understand that because then you, Greg, you made a comment of like, something along the lines of like, we'll help them where we can, right? Like if they ask for 5,000, it may not be an automatic, but you're looking at how do you partner together to then come to the city with a holistic request that will suffice or fit all the needs of the requests that you might have as best as we can.
Yeah, the project is to determine the feasibility of that. There's a lot of
Right,
agendas, there are a lot of personalities involved. We want to make sure this is going to be a, win for all parties involved. But
right,
ideally, the foundation would raise enough money that we wouldn't have to come to the city
right,
for a grant. But I imagine that's going to take some time to get there.
Right.
So in the short term, if we couldn't cover all of their needs, at least we'd have a holistic request.
agree. Okay, thank you.
Kevin?
So, yeah, according, like, looking at the fiscal impact, so, Art Center Foundation is putting up 10,000, and then would say that we would put up to 55,000. Are there any anticipated additional funds that might be required? So we do the study, get that, and then is that, they get the data and then we can deploy, or would there potentially be another ask to follow up with that? Just,
I don't know of another ask, but that's not a conversation that I've had with Brad. I don't know, Greg, have you heard anything different than that? No.
He has some money in there for travel.
Oh, that's, yeah, I mean, there was $4,000 for travel, that type of thing. But as far as the go-dos afterwards, once he turns that over on the foundation side to Greg and his team, then that's on them as far as the strategy and moving forward and
I mean,
implementation.
it's supposed to include recommendations on like, would we want to hire staff for the foundation? Do we need a part-time or a full-time employee to run some of this? But that would be on us, that would.
okay, oh, perfect, thank you.
Just kind of a clarification, what Kevin just asked. There is no additional request for fund later on, because this is a stage 1 and stage 2 is coming and so on, right?
I only view this as it's a whole and complete study that once it's done, it's handed to us and it's up to us to go make it happen. It doesn't mean the foundation may not hire Brett or somebody else to do some other work, but from the city's perspective on the art center side, once we have the work that we know we need to do, for example, fees or scheduling, whatever that strategy is, that doesn't require any additional expense for them.
Because I'm thinking that bringing on DeVos is not just about getting the funding from the city, but them actually going funding from outside of the city, right?
That's right.
Right, so I'm just saying that
Yes.
this is not a phase where
No,
I think so.
they're gonna come back and ask that we need more studies or we need.
no. I
So
can't.
think of it this way, is it's, their attempt to become self-sustaining.
Sure.
We're helping them to help themselves.
I will say, well, I am, but I'll also say, so I've had the opportunity to sit in on a handful of their, the foundation's meetings and everything. And, clearly whether it's Alex and Janine or even Penelope and Greg and Ali have done a great job standing up the Art Center and the foundation. I think this is a great opportunity, and I've heard some of their discussions about some of the scheduling and some of the contracts we already have with the residents group. This is a real need to really figure out. This is probably an unfair way to characterize it, but it's almost like a process excellence. Like, how do we get better at this? How do we get more efficient at this long term for sustainability purposes? So I think this is a very, very much a needed thing to help make sure the arts Foundation and the Art Center continues to be a success. I was there Saturday night and still continue to be sort of amazed on, it's a great venue, and I talked to a couple of the artists after the show was over, and they at least tell me that they love coming here and love what they have, and it's like, this is something that we really need to continue to try to do our best job to figure out how to stand this up most efficiently. And I certainly applaud everybody who's been involved for the first couple of years on this. So that's my long-winded way of saying I'm certainly in favor of doing this, and would certainly think this is a good thing for the Art Center.
Go ahead.
So I'm also going to make a comment. The event we just had the first K-pop performance in Coppell Art Center. That was the only location in Texas where that group stopped. They were doing a U.S. tour, and this is the only location they actually did perform at the Coppell Art Center. The response was that I think you probably heard that it was packed. Even though we pushed it back several days, and there were a number of the attendees that were very pleased with the way the performance went, the sound system, and everything else. To credit to Janine and the staff, that the group that actually brought the performers were very appreciative of the fact that they assisted and accommodated their needs, even though some things went over the hours and so on. So they're very appreciative of that. Another thing that I do want to give you a heads up is Carrollton is looking to build a art center, so we're going to have a competition, and most likely they're going to build a bigger one because they saw that the art center it is a good venue, but they wanted a bigger venue. So just give me a heads up that it's coming, and I don't know what we need to do to make sure that we maintain the performance that come for the reason that they come today.
That's why we have the experts, right?
Well, but they're eyeing on Art Center and
So
taking some of the performances. So.
Janine's starting to look sick back there, so I'll be careful. No, I appreciate the comments, because it's, it has, we really just finished our first year of operations in September, and it has exceeded all of my expectations of what I thought it was going to do.
And just so you know, that group that came, they perform usually at a 2,000 or more, venue type of place. So this was really the smallest.
So why did they only pick Coppell out of all the choices they could have had?
So the lady that actually, the group that in the Magic Korea, that when they played, they were looking at the different places, but they came to the Art Center because we had other performances there, the Korean cultural, performance and things of that nature. So they really liked the setup, but what I was afraid at that time was it was a smaller venue and you're going to have less people, and you saw the fee that they were charging, and I wasn't sure if they're going to be able to pack it up. But people came from Korea, out of state, California, to perform, to participate in or attend that performance. And that's not to say that the future ones that they're going to bring, which they did say they are looking to bring several more to Coppell as well. That they're going to max it out again and do the same thing. But one of the reasons is because that lady, she's been to the Art Center when we had some other cultural events there. And again, in May, we have another cultural performance that's happening, and that lady also was in Coppell Art Center, but she used to have it at the Irving Art Center. So when I told her about, but they really like it here, so and that's the reason why. So we'll probably have more coming in the future.
Great. All right. Everybody good?
Okay, to bring it on the 28th.
Yes.
We will do it. Okay. Thank y'all.
Mindy's just jumping to get up here, so. Item C is Business Support Program and American Rescue Plan Act. Or project update, excuse me.
Am I good?
As far as I know.
Am I good?
We're just summarizing.
It's just a
the
summary,
programs.
not asking for any direction tonight.
I can stay.
And all she's doing is summarizing the program. If we talk about future money, or then you gotta go.
Yes, sir.
He's gonna share the money that he got.
That's right.
Then he's really gonna.
We can't, we're gonna share.
That may be permanently.
I apologize in advance for my cough, so. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, Tracy and I are gonna tag team an update on the ARPA program funds and some of the projects. And so as you all know, we have just recently wrapped up the business support programs. That application closed on January 31st. And so I wanted to give you kind of a summary of what took place with those, and then I'll pass it over to Tracy. So just as a quick reminder, we have the 2 business grant assistance programs. One was the Coppell Business Rent and Mortgage Assistance Grant, and the other was the Coppell Business Revenue Recovery Assistance Grant. You all dedicated a total of $2.75 million to these grant programs. So I'll break down each one individually. The Coppell Business Rent and Mortgage Assistance Grant was a program that was designed to assist any small businesses with their rent or mortgage if they had endured financial loss due to COVID-19. The program was designed to grant one-time grants of $10,000. We did have 2 rounds at this grant. We did the first round. You all dedicated $650,000 for the first round, and it was so well received that you all did go ahead and grant additional funds to this. And so letters were mailed to all businesses in advance of the grant opening each of the rounds. Round 1 opened on May 31st, 2022, and closed on June 1st, 2022, because we had such a rapid response to the grant. So we had 65 grants awarded. We issued 64 grants. I apologize. And that is because one of the vendors that received a grant never completed their paperwork to get the check issued. Once again, it was so successful that you all dedicated an additional $1.8 million to the grant program. And so round 2 opened on July 13th and closed on January 31st, 2023. We had 78 grants awarded and 77 checks issued. Once again, we had one of the businesses that did not complete their paperwork, so they did not actually get their check. So the total for both those rounds, we had 143 grants awarded, but $1,410,000 distributed. Then there was the Coppell Business Revenue Recovery Assistance Grant. Again, this was designed to aid businesses that relied on drive-by traffic and drop-in customers that were negatively impacted by the reconstruction of South Beltline Road. The program was designed for one-time grants of $5,000. Once again, we mailed letters to all of our eligible businesses in advance of the grant application opening. The application period ran from August 25th of 2022 to January 31st, 2023. We had 37 grants awarded, 37 checks issued, so we distributed $185,000. So just kind of a summary of both programs. There were $2.75 million dedicated to the business support grants. We awarded $1,595,000, so that means we had total remaining funds of $1,155,000. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that is the summary of the 2 grants. Okay, then I'll turn it over to Trey. Oh,
I got it. For the rescue plan, why was the number of recipients so low?
on the revenue recovery?
Yes.
Those were the only applications. So if you remember, we broke it up into multiple rounds. So we made a decision the first round of which businesses would be eligible. And then after we didn't have a huge response, we opened it up to include every business along Denton Tab and Beltline that is within the city limits of Coppell. And we just did not have as large of a response as we thought we would.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mindy, Mayor, Council. So I am here to provide a summary of kind of where we are, and the way I'm going to talk about the projects that have been prioritized by the council is in 3 different categories. So the first category we're going to talk about are the completed projects, and then I'm going to have a slide that will summarize the projects that are in progress right now and the projects that are authorized but have not yet begun. So here we've got our completed project list, and we'll start kind of at the top. So our municipal court clerk reconfiguration. This is what the before looked like. This was clearly during Halloween because it does not normally look like that.
Not cleaning off as well.
But we scrambled for the before photo. We just needed a cleaning crew is all we needed. But as you can see, this is where 4 clerks would sit in an X formation right on top of each other, 0 partitions, 0 separation. Through the funding for this reconfiguration, they are still kind of in a T together, but if you can see, they're now in groups of 2. They are partitioned off with the plexiglass, and there is a like 5-foot walkway in between the 2 sets of clerks. And so in addition to the clerk area that was reconfigured, they also were able to address the back area, which allowed additional spacing for their break room and officing for our city prosecutor. We had the utility billing credit, and this is just one sample of an appreciative recipient who wrote this on her bill that sent back in to us. So that was very helpful for our seniors. We had the pavement replacement at the Creekview neighborhood right there at Bethel and Tap. So this is the before photo, so you can see right at the very front left corner, you know, we had done some maintenance on a panel replacement. You can see all the patching in the pavers, and then if you look at the far back end of that photo, there's a lot of patching and additional concrete work that over time we have been maintaining through that bridge area as you come into the neighborhood. And this is the after. Clearly all of that brand new paving, the pavers, I'm using quotation marks, pavers, that's just the concrete with the stamping, so we've eliminated that maintenance issue through there. So that was new curbs, and it's a really nice drive through there now. And then Mindy just provided you the summary of the business support programs. It would have been hard to put 143 business photos on here for the before and after. So I do want to, so I've circled the available balance at the bottom. So $1.195 million is really the balance of all of our completed projects. So keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that number here in just a moment. This is a summary of the in progress and our pending projects. So on the left side, in progress projects, we've got some really big items there. The one item that has a really big allocation but not much expended to date there is Magnolia Park. That's just a function of timing. So we are waiting to finalize the last of the studies, so the antiquity study that was required for that. And then once we have all of that finalized, we will be able to close up those plans and go to bid for that project. But Moore Road, Fire Station, MetroCrest, all of those, Woven Clinic, all of those are in progress right now. And then on our right, we have the pending projects which are on the prioritization list and are in various stages of kind of the pre-launch phase of implementation. I've highlighted the 2 programs there right at the bottom, so Creek Bank Stabilization Loan Program and Pop-Up Business Support. So if you'll recall back when I've been in front of the council a number of times talking through the different prioritization list. That list was designed for flexibility for you as council as we identified additional things that were ARP eligible that council would like to consider for funding. And so over time, we've made a number of changes to what is funded through ARP. And as the net result of all of those changes, we have juggled a little bit on the initial funding for the Creek Bank stabilization, which when we started this 18 months ago was $1 million as the initial allocation. And then pop-up business we had at 500,000. And so where Where those two projects stand today are amended amounts so that we can adjust to accommodate a lot of the other changes that we've made. So that flexibility there has been very helpful. Kent will be back in front of you in the next meeting or two to talk about the Creek Bank Stabilization Loan Program. So we are at a place where we will be able to get some direction and provide you information about what that would look like. And the pop-up business support, you will notice that has zero funding for ARP, but that does not mean that that is not an initiative that we are moving forward with. We've just shifted from ARP funding to our 5-year forecast, and so that'll be rolled into our annual budget process for the upcoming years as we look at what will we be addressing through our regular budget process. So I mentioned to you we do have a balance of 1.195 million from those completed projects. We do have a recommendation. This is not something that needs action tonight, so this is a recommendation to file in the back of your mind as we continue our conversations around prioritization for the ARP funds. We would recommend allocating from that balance of 1.195 million, allocating 250 back to that Creek Bank Stabilization Loan Program, which would bring that allocation to 750, which would then leave an available balance for future consideration of projects just short of $950,000. So with that, I am happy to answer questions regarding the classification of projects I've presented to you tonight.
Tracy, thank you for that presentation. Could you go back to the previous slide? So I just had a random question about the $250,000 allocation for the Creek Bank. So we have, the ARPA funds, we have, was it 3 years to use them?
There's increments, I think it's up to 4.
Is it 4?
I'm looking for anybody that's in finance, right? Isn't it up to
It's
4?
through 26.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is that, let's say that we have a citizen who, you know, wants to take advantage of the stabilization loan program. You know, we do the loan, what happens to the money when we get it back if it's allocated within that 2026 timeframe, if we're supposed to spend it by then?
Well, it will have met the criteria for being spent.
By issuing out as a loan,
Yes.
it'll meet the criteria.
Right.
Then when we come back, when it gets paid back, does that go to undesignated general fund?
It would probably, we were talking about probably using it in DUD and then
The DUD.
drainage
Okay.
utility fund.
Okay, I'm
Because
just
that's
curious.
a way to self-fund this program.
Okay, all right, excellent. I was curious
It's a
about
good,
that.
it's a good question, but
Yeah.
that's how we understand it.
Correct, it's
Yeah.
out, yes, out
Okay,
there.
excellent, thank you. See?
So that Creek Bank stabilization loan, is that the one that off of Parker that we?
There were several areas like Hollywood,
Uh-huh.
yes, and Parker.
So if I remember, I think we had approached them and they said they weren't really interested. I thought that was the
No,
last.
we did have some interest from neighbors that we did talk to.
Okay. Because in the very beginning, I thought I heard that they weren't really interested, but that's
We
not
did
the
have,
case.
correct, we did have interest.
Don?
The boardwalk, this is not a classification. It said we've already expended all the money.
It's
Are we
encumbered.
that far along?
No, it's encumbered. So when we say expended, that means
You
either
signed the
out,
contract.
Okay.
out the door.
That's fine, so,
Encumbered.
it didn't really matter, I thought we were a lot further along than I
We are
thought we
very
were.
efficient.
We were very, very quick and efficient on that
You
project.
didn't see the new boardwalk?
I didn't put it out there. Okay, so it's already,
It's encumbered.
Once you
we're
sign the
considering that
contract.
it's already gone, okay, well, that makes sense.
Okay, could you go back to the next slide?
Sure.
Or one more, your summary, one, no, other way.
Oh,
Toward the
I'm
end.
sorry.
Spider-Man slide. My favorite slide.
Here we go.
Yeah, this one.
Yes.
What was the logic or the strategy about not allocating the full 1 million to the stabilization loan program and not funding the pop-up business support with the remaining funds here?
Are you, Mayor, are you asking about when we, on this slide here?
Yes.
Yes. So as we kind of worked our way through the conversations around the different projects that were going to be ARP funded, some of those projects were, for example, Howell and Bullock. That was $2 million. We decided we added that, and then we decided, okay, it's probably better off funded somewhere else. And then that $2 million literally just went one-to-one to different projects. But there were other projects that we've added that we did not have an offset for. And so adjusting the projects that we had not started yet, that were towards the end of the expenditure timeframe as opposed to the beginning, that's how we enabled that flexibility to go ahead and pay for the things we needed up front, knowing that we were going to be able to come back in terms of we knew there was going to be some amount of money for the business support, we just didn't know how much. So we were going to be able to true up at some point, and so that's the rationale on how we selected those two.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And again, just a reminder that we're not asking for you to reprioritize or do anything
nope.
tonight.
Just a status.
Right, and I will tell you, given with what everything's been happening on the construction side, the Magnolia Park Trail, I'm going to be interested to see when that bid comes in, because we may be saying, here's your option of utilizing some of those funds like we did on the boardwalk.
Yeah. Anybody have any other questions for Tracy or Mindy? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D is a presentation and discussion on the Wagon Tails Dog Park. Oh, you're already up. I was looking for you.
I was sneaky back here.
So, one of the things that caught me by surprise on the Wagon Tail Dog Park was when this first came up, there was this look of blank look on the council's face, and it occurred to me that there was no one that was on the council when this thing was kicked off. Brianna was on her hiatus, and everyone else was elected 2014 or later. So I apologize. This was new information for the group, and so hopefully Jessica will be able to fill us in.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of history. So
Sure.
thank you, Mayor. I'm here this evening to discuss Wagon Tails Dog Park, which is located in MacArthur Park. And at the end of this presentation, I will be seeking some council feedback regarding next steps for the future of Wagon Tails. So this evening, I'm going to provide you with a brief history and overview of the dog park, some of the past and very current challenges the dog park has presented in terms of maintenance, an overview of some amenities and some additional information regarding our neighboring communities' dog parks. I'll update you on the dog park user survey that we recently conducted, and then I'll discuss some proposed next steps. So as an overview, again, Wagon Tails is located within MacArthur Park, right here off of MacArthur, just north of Fire Station 2. The footprint is outlined in red. The west side is our large dog area, and the east side is our small dog area. Currently, in terms of operating times, the dog park is open 6 days a week. We are closed on Wednesdays for maintenance. That's very standard practice with most dog parks to have a closure day. And I will talk about kind of what that day is for here a little bit later. In terms of amenities, we do fall short of other communities. Our dog park is just about 2 acres, which is really on the small side for typical dog parks. We do have one shade structure with benches, we have doggy pot stations, we have a few small agility items that were donated by a really wonderful Eagle Scout in recent years, and we do have a drinking fountain in both the small and large dog areas. So the dog park is coming up on its 10th anniversary. The dog park originally was constructed in the summer of 2013 and officially opened to the public on November 9th, 2013. The original project cost came in at $288,984.32, built by HQS Construction. So this park was built extremely affordably even for that time. The idea of dog park came through extensive citizen input. The city heard from many folks interested in a dog park in town around this time. Individuals showed up at the Parks and Recreation Board as well as city council meetings over several months until the design process finally kicked off. During the design and construction phases, discussions were had about a citizen group potentially forming a 501c3 entity that would assist the city in fundraising for the dog park in terms of keeping up with ongoing maintenance and assisting with small park maintenance projects. The design consultant we were working with during this time also made this recommendation, and unfortunately no nonprofit group was ever formed during that time. So bear with me as I discuss some of our challenges. So this park has presented several large maintenance challenges since its inception. Like most dog parks, we do close, again, 1 day per week on Wednesdays for maintenance. So this is specifically to perform maintenance and to allow the turf to rest. Even though, as we know, 1 day a week is probably not enough for turf rest. During this closure day, we also must do our contracted mowing, we must spray, weed eat, lay down turf in areas, fill holes, and then do other repairs. So dogs and users obviously cannot be in the park while these activities are occurring for safety reasons. So first major challenge that we have there is indicated there in the picture with the water. It's our drainage. This was identified as a concern during the original design and planning process. So we do have a drainage outfall that runs underneath MacArthur, meant to stop water on the west side of the park. Unfortunately, after any rain event, we have water ponding that looks just like that picture there. Today is a perfect example. I was there earlier. We already had the ground was already 100% saturated from the previous rain events. And with the rain we received last night, the current dog park the large side of the dog park is about 50% ponded. So it's completely unusable today. Turf quality. This kind of goes hand in hand with our drainage challenges. So turf quality is a challenge in every city that operates a dog park. We are well connected regionally, nationally, with all of our fellow municipalities, and everybody that operates a dog park struggles with turf quality. For ours specifically, due to its smaller size, just around 2 acres, the amount of use it gets makes maintaining the turf extremely challenging. We're obviously constantly battling hundreds of dogs urinating on the grass, digging holes, and just general use, which causes wear and tear. Coupled with the drainage concern I mentioned makes for an impossible situation. And as we know, heavy use on wet turf creates even further damage. So with the one closure day that we do have, if that particular day on Wednesday is a wet day or a rainy day, like tomorrow that we'll still have ponding in the park, that means any turf maintenance we do is impossible. So then you miss a mowing, in growing season, you miss a mowing cycle, you miss spraying, you miss being able to get in there and weed eat, etc. So all of that's pushed for another week. Again, today is a great example. And then the other picture there is regarding the fence. The fence is a major issue of concern. The fence that we currently have is a lightweight, coated chain link fence. The largest issue is that there's no bottom support bar on this fence and no way to affix the fence to the ground, especially with the concrete mow strip running underneath. There is a thin guide wire where the chain link is attached by fasteners. Staff continually repair the fence with all different types of fasteners. No matter which type is used, very large dogs running at full speed can still sometimes break through, causing damage to the fence. This fence, again, is a constant maintenance issue, and we would not recommend putting in a fence of this type. And then lastly is our drinking fountains. We do have a fountain in each side of both the small dog park and the large dog park. The fountains have a lower fountain which serves the dogs and an upper fountain which serves the humans. These fountains are a constant source of clogs, leaks, broken buttons that get mashed in and won't pop back out. And then we struggle with lack of available parts for replacement. In fact, one of our neighbors here to the north, their fountains, same ones that we have, are down right now, and their website says they have no anticipated date for repair because they can't get parts, and they're asking for all of their users to bring their own water. So again, we all struggle with these same issues. So these are a constant source of frustration for all cities who operate dog parks. As a side note, the company that makes our fountains is called MDF, Most Dependable Fountain. So in general, we have, due to these challenges, we have some very frustrated users, we have very frustrated caretakers of this property, and so just a lot of challenges in general. So covering that there. So I want to move on to kind of what are our neighbors doing, where are we at within the region and in the area in terms of kind of how does our dog park match up. So we communicate regularly, as I said, with all of our peers around the Metroplex. So we kind of get to learn from each other. Hey, we just did this, don't do this, don't do this, or do this. So let's start with our newest park in the area, which is in the city of Grapevine. The City of Grapevines Park is 4 acres, and it cost $2 million to build. And this was built in 2019, so probably in today's dollars, we'd be looking probably in the 2.5 plus range. They do have definitely different amenities than we do. They do have some synthetic turf, as you can tell from that picture, in some of the park, not all 4 acres, just some of the park. They do have a dog spray fountain, a dog washing station, as well as some agility features there, and a lot more shade. So again, we've communicated with our colleagues there, met with them on the park, got some info on what's working and what's not working since they opened. They strongly emphasized they wish they had not installed synthetic turf. It is extremely difficult to maintain, hot on the dog's paws in the summertime, smells, has a lot of maintenance issues, and will be expensive when time to replace. Their spray ground is also presenting a lot of challenges. They've already had at least 3 to 4 pumps burn out and motors burn out due to clogging of dog hair. So just those things are to be expected, just ongoing maintenance challenges that they've passed along our way. That we would
What was that?
The dog wash fountains and the doggy spray fountains. They have a motion activated, it's almost like a dog splash pad, if you will. Yes. Yeah, it's very cute. It's very well done, but it's a lot of maintenance challenges for them.
And it recirculates the water.
It does. Actually, no. Theirs is fed with fresh water. Fresh water, no chemicals. Moving on to Louisville. This is going to be the largest park in the area. Louisville Railroad Park is 6 acres. Their amenities are really similar to ours. They're much bigger in terms of size, but they just have shade structures and water fountains. So pretty simple amenities there. Moving on over to Flower Mound, their park is 5 acres. This park is a really nice looking park. They obviously have some turf challenges as well. However, if you go out there, they do a lot of overseeding. Their turf does look very, very good. They have multiple paddocks where they can shift, have some areas open at times and other areas down for maintenance. They do have more opportunities for natural shade and plus shade structures and benches as well. And then our neighbors right down the street off of Sandy Lake there in Carrollton in McKinnish Park. That park is probably most similar to ours in size and amenities. Theirs is about 3 acres. They do also have a man-made pond there, as you can see at the top of that picture, and shade structure as well. So, as you'll recall, during the citizen satisfaction survey that was conducted back in October, I would like to say that Community Experiences Department, formerly Parks and Recreation, really, really wonderful feedback around a lot of our parks and facilities and amenities, with the exception of the dog park. We did receive some feedback during that survey that began to inform us that the planned replacements that we were already going to tackle, such as the fence and some turf, that taking into that feedback into account, we might need to look at something a little bit larger scale. So back in December, we deployed kind of a pulse, just dog park user survey that was open for about 4 weeks. We had this posted out on the website, social media, e-news, and then we also had QR codes hanging up at both dog parks on some signage there. We pushed that out several times. From this survey, we received 311 responses, which is an incredible response rate for a small pulse survey. So some of the things that we asked things like, which area of the park do you use? Do you focus on the small dog area, the big dog area, or both? What improvements would you like to see to better your experience at Wagon Tails? We also asked if they'd be willing to volunteer to assist with park cleanup and or maintenance days or events, and we had about 50% of the respondents say that yes, they would be interested, and they did leave their name and contact information, which was, I think, really exciting. So the results of the survey did align with the maintenance challenges and replacements that staff had already planned. The top items respondents said they wanted to see improved was, of course, the drainage and water ponding, turf quality. Lots of requests for more shade. There were about 20 or so comments directly relating to cleanliness and maintenance. 10 of those specifically about owners who do not clean up after their pets, which I know is a frustration. And about 10 were related to general maintenance, specifically targeting the fence. And then lots of requests for additional lighting. And so as an aside, currently the dog park falls under our overall park ordinance. Which means that all parks are open 30 minutes before sunset to 30 minutes before sunrise to 30 minutes after sunset. And so due to the fact that the dog park does close 30 minutes after sunset, no additional lighting has been installed up to this point. So what are we proposing in terms of next steps? So we've already received some excellent detailed feedback from our dog park users. Our next plan is to take that feedback and begin to enter into a design agreement with a consultant. So we're proposing Tignall and Perkins. They are highly responsive. They've done several dog park designs. They are very great to work with. And so we're in some very preliminary discussions with them now regarding scope and cost. Should council be favorable to us moving forward with the project, we propose that obviously we would bring regular updates regarding this project to the Parks and Recreation Board. That would be the mechanism in which we would continue to solicit feedback from users, as well as keeping council updated as well. And then, of course, we would do regular project updates via social media and our website like we do on all of our park projects. This also gives us an opportunity, potentially while the dog park is being designed and renovated, to really look at our current park ordinance and amend as necessary. A lot of our surrounding communities do have a separate ordinance just for their dog park, which allows it to pull out of their overall park art ordinance, which allows us to look at different operating hours and different things that maybe we should address outside of our regular park ordinance. So we would be looking at that as well, of course bringing that through the council as well. And then the last step is we would come back to City Council and be able to award a construction contract. So very excited to have that opportunity. Again, we know that there's a lot of folks who love this park, heavily use this park. We really want to make it a more enjoyable place for all of our two-legged and our four-legged users. So with that, while you enjoy some pictures of some of our community experiences staff dogs, I'd like to answer any questions that you have.
So could you go back a couple of slides? It was where you were talking about it was later, it was where you were talking about some of the complaints.
Here.
No, it was later. Come on, go. So I just wanted to point out that everything that she was pointing out that were being complaints were things that we discussed in depth, and those were conscious decisions that we made back 10 years ago. And there was like the hours of operation, that was a fairly contested discussion that we had, and the council at that time was not willing to push the limits out for nighttime because it meant that we'd have to put up lights, and this was a non-budget item. So it was a very cost. A lot of the decisions were made on a cost basis. The fence was another big cost item. I mean, the recommendation was to put in a much more substantial fence at a much substantial cost. And so we the council at the time opted not to do that. So, kind of a got what you paid for at the time. Not our best work.
So going off of what you just said, that was the original project was about close to 300,000. Do we have an idea as to what we're targeting?
So again, extremely preliminary. We'd have to engage in the design first and go out to bid. But I would say a rough estimate is a minimum of $1 million.
If I may ask a question.
No, I'm sorry. This is not a public hearing.
Really?
So again, we would know more. We'd keep council updated on that. In terms of kind of scraping the site and starting over and just addressing the infrastructure pieces that need to address, we're looking at it probably about $1 million. But again, our goals are to get the fence, the turf, the drainage. Those are critical, and then everything else is going to be the nice to have. So we'll look at those things first.
I was actually expecting you to come back with a larger number than that.
So again, that is just addressing the infrastructure pieces. Obviously, there's a lot more wants and desires from our users. So I think we can take those into account in the process.
Don?
Apologize if you said this and I missed it, but will it for sure be at this location, or is there a thought that we might look at a different location?
Yeah,
or is there something different?
So the reason it ended up at this location 10 years ago, same problem we have today, lack of available space in town.
Okay.
So we've looked extensively at almost 600 acres of the park system. There is nowhere else that would be suitable for this park. So we are proposing to keep it on the same site. Again, in our preliminary discussions with TNP, There's potential to expand the footprint ever so slightly in a few directions. Let me go back to this slide here. You see to the south there, you'll see Fire Station 2. There is a little plot of land to the north. There's opportunities in terms of what we're going to do in terms of the drainage outfall. We're working with Public Works on that, on what we can do there. We might be able to expand closer out to MacArthur. So it might be able to expand the size just a little bit.
I mean, that's just a drainage ditch right there, right? Is it
Yeah, there is a pipe. Yeah, there is a pipe that runs through there, and then it's just an outfall right there.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
But there are options there. We've already kind of discussed those. So we are going to try to maximize what we can do within the scope.
What is that little area north of Fire Station 2, approximately
So
third or half of an acre? Is
yeah,
that- is
so
that
if
kind
we
of what
expand
that
it there, so we're about 2, that would get us about 2.65.
is? Okay.
John?
Jessica, what's the nearest dog park from here?
It's going to be Carrollton's McKinnish Park down on Sandy Lake, and it's going to be that picture there to your right.
And do we have an idea as to the number of visitors? How many actually are from Coppell or from like urban? close
Yeah,
by
unfortunately, no
neighborhoods?
way to know, because it's just like any park, it's open, non-monitored, folks come and go as they please. But I will tell you that I know for a fact that our heavy users also frequent our surrounding communities, and I'm sure that's the same. So I'm pretty sure Carrollton residents use ours, Louisville residents, and a lot of them will take, if Louisville's closed on Wednesday or Thursday, they'll come and see us on, Thursday or whatever. And so folks do a lot of those kinds of things as well.
Kevin?
So the McKinnish Dog Park there, they've got the pond there. Do you happen to know how big that pond is?
I don't know the exact
I know it's
size
kind
of
of
the
a
pond.
completely random question, but
Yeah,
my point being that if that's a 3-acre park, it's probably only about 2 acres
Correct.
of usable space, correct?
correct.
And I'm sure the dogs go swim in the
And
in
I
the
was going to
pond
say,
and stuff,
it's an amenity, depending upon the dog park owner. If you decide that's an amenity for your dog,
Yeah.
that's, you know what I mean? But yeah, some folks do love it for that reason.
And do I see 3 stalls there?
At McKinnish, yes.
McKinnish, okay.
Yes, and so y'all know, I'm sure, McKinnish, total floodplain.
Yep.
Meant to flood, that park goes completely underwater quite a bit as well. So they have sort of drainage issues worse than ours. Yeah.
Understood.
What's your time frame?
So should council be favorable to us pursuing this, we are poised to sign a contract with TNP immediately. It does fall within city manager signature authority. We would get that done in earnest. And then TNP would then be able to kind of give us a timeline from there. We told them we want to move as quickly as possible. It could potentially putting us out to bid in the summer, which could result in the dog park going under construction late summer, early fall.
Brianna?
I was going to ask about timing, but also TNP. I know we've done a lot with them, and I think they're great partners. But as far as like some of the other neighboring city parks, has TNP been involved? Are there others that we're considering, or?
Yeah, so we have considered several others. So once we were working on the dog park user survey in earnest, we knew that it was time to start talking with consultants, and so we did kind of ask around, and we wanted to select somebody that's done multiple dog parks, and so TNP kind of fit that bill.
Okay.
For us, yeah.
Kevin?
Do we have a general cost on it when engaging them with design on that? I know you said it falls within scope of
Yeah,
city
it's
manager.
about $44,000
Okay.
for design, which is very reasonable.
And what would the funding source in that be?
I believe we have multiple funding sources, but he knows I'm going to pass that question to him.
We have multiple funding sources.
I just didn't know if you had anything targeted or anything.
No. After y'all, if you give us the direction to go forward tonight, there's just different ways for us to slice that.
Okay.
Well, since I was the only person that actually voted on the existing one and don't get to vote on this one, I'm in favor of fixing what we didn't do right the first time around.
That's a good start.
Thank you.
Fixing West's mistakes.
What's that?
Fixing West's
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm like, we talked about it for years. There was such a huge request, and And this is what you did, Wes. I'm joking.
You weren't a king.
Just kidding.
Yeah, and I got elected mayor, so we can fix it.
There you go, there you go.
Jessica,
Yeah, you left that one out there on the table for me.
I know you said that you got, done the survey and got the responses back and all that, but I'm guessing that you have an ongoing communication conversation with those that actually reached out with the Coppell Park path?
Right, just,
or-
it's one individual that we've heard from so far by email, and then the 3 individuals who spoke at citizens appearance. But in terms of that, the mechanism to gather additional feedback is gonna be through our Park and Recreation Board.
The big fail, in my opinion, was the failure of the group to create the 501c3, because that was going to be a big part of the park, the dog park going forward. And that was, once it got built, it just disappeared into vapor. And that's my biggest frustration. Kevin?
Just, so I mean, obviously, there were some shortcomings on that initial design. So I'm assuming, I just want to put this out loud, is the idea is that we have an amazing park system in our community overall, and just to bring this park up to the standard that we have for our other parks that we enjoy in this community. Is that the vision?
That is the vision, and I think, again, why I wanted to cover our surrounding communities is we were one of the first to kind of step out and do it in the area, and then all of the other 4 kind of learned from us and then kind of did their version, and so now we get to constantly learn and get better, and we've made a whole lot of improvements in the park system in the last 10 years, and Wagon Tails has kind of stayed, and we maintain it, we keep it safe and operational, but it is a challenge, so we're happy to get that.
And then last thing I want to bring up is in our retreat that we did a couple weeks ago, I kind of brought this up in our kind of brainstorming session, that there had been some appetite from a couple citizens about doing a second dog park on the west side, and just wanted to kind of put that out there. So the goal and the strategy, at least from the Parks Department, the Community Experiences Department, I'm sorry, I'm working on reprogramming, but is to just do one dog park and do it really well.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, with the space limitations, the standard in the industry is no less than 2 acres. We really do not have that space anywhere else in town unless we want to retrofit a sports field or change some other parkland, and I don't think that we're ready to make that.
I understand. Thank you for
that decision. Yeah.
Can we give her the thumbs up?
And move forward, yeah.
one paw up.
One paws up? All right.
Thank you so much.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, item E is a discussion regarding Texas House Bill 1514, Mud Reform Bill, and the City of Coppell's Capital Day. This is my item. I was contacted by the mayor of Fate, Texas, which is a relatively small community on the other side, or it's by Rockwall and Royce City. Their request was for us to support these 2 bills that they've got pending in the Texas House. And before I responded to him, I wanted to get this group's, view on it. And so Crystal has got the background information, but House Bill 1514 is basically asking to change the way that when a zoning change request comes through, we send out notices to 200 feet. If there are 20% negative responses, then it forces a supermajority vote. What 1514 is doing is changing that percentage from 20% to 50%. So it takes a much larger number of citizens' input to force a supermajority vote. We've had literally 2 cases in the last 10 years that went and had more than 20% citizens input on a pending zoning case. The first one was the CMS East fence, and the second one was the Trinity River kayak. Both of those did generate more than 20%, but less than 50%, and both of them were passed by the council. So whether it was 20% or 50% wouldn't have impacted the outcome of the vote. So that's the request of the mayor of Fate. I haven't responded to him. If you look at it holistically, you're basically reducing the impact of the citizens' opinion because you're requesting more of them before it goes into a supermajority. The other one that they're asking us to support is changes to a mud reform bill. Quite honestly, we don't have any muds. We never will have any muds, or we don't think we'll ever have any muds. And we would be in a really poor position to support that one. Kevin?
For our friends at home, a MUD is a
Municipal Utility
Thank you
District.
very much.
Thank you, yes. Anyway, so my gut, and by the way, to give our citizens more input, some years ago, the council asked that our staff do mail-outs to an 800-foot radius, not just the 200-foot that's required by state law. And we currently are mailing out to 800 to the 800-foot radius point. Those 800 don't count in the supermajority or the 20% vote, but we're notifying folks out to 800 feet. So just with the history of us, asking for citizens' input and notifying them as much as we can, I didn't think it was appropriate to support the mayor of Fate. But Kevin?
I guess my question would be why are they reaching out? What problem are they trying to solve where they're trying to garner support? Do you have any other background information, or is it just the ask?
Crystal, we looked into it a little bit. It looks like they're in a relatively expanding area. They're having a lot of growth in their city, and they're probably using it to help them do some growth that the citizens are opposed to.
Understood.
That's a guess. Now, Don?
The supermajority means instead of 4, we need 5, 6.
For us, it's
You have
6.
to go 6.
6 for us.
Okay. I was going to have sort of the same question. Did they provide a white paper or a rationale? I mean, more background on it.
Well, they explained what the bill. They explained the 1514 in the MUD reform. And Crystal's got those copies if you'd like to see them. But it's what they presented to the legislature. They didn't give us their strategy about why they were doing it. So now, if I can give you the kicker. Mike's office discovered in researching Fate that they actually sent a letter to the state comptroller supporting State Rule 3.334.
It's going to be hard to do them solid.
They did not scratch our back.
So I did take the liberty to write the mayor and point that out to him and ask him if there was any chance that he would consider reversing his position, and I have not heard back from him. So with the looks on the faces, I'll send him a polite decline.
Thank you.
I think it'd be hard pressed to justify supporting.
Well, I'm going to explain a little bit about our mindset on how we, try to notify as well as we can everyone that's involved.
Yeah, without looking at some kind of white paper discussion about, it seems reasonable that if you get a lot of pushback that you would have to rethink what you're trying to do, right? That you would have to get broader support. So that seems like a reasonable stance. But I haven't studied it from a white paper, a legal standpoint. Okay, that makes sense.
Would you send our best wishes to Fate and hope that they hear?
Hey, we'll support them if they does some of their sales tax.
I will put some appropriate wording together. All right. Yeah, please. So I've had a couple of questions about our state legislative day in Austin, and I'm passing out the first 2 pages are the red, white, and blue one with the state flag at the top. This came from the Texas Municipal League. This is their summary of their legislative agenda. And the page with the text was an editorial out of the Dallas Morning News from a couple of days ago. And it's actually a very, very well-written little piece on why state-funded lobbyist or taxpayer-funded lobbyist is a good thing for cities. And the legislature is hell-bent on disallowing us to hire lobbyists. And so this is a very well-written little piece, sums it up very well. And I believe Texas TML is also supporting this editorial. They were the ones that actually copied it and sent it out. So this was just FYI for you guys. And our legislative day, which is currently scheduled for March 2nd, we do have a tentative agenda, which is as firm as it's going to get. Crystal? Since we're dealing with representatives and senators, they can change their mind at a moment's notice, and we won't know until the last minute. But we do currently have this agenda written down. We've got a meeting with our former state senator, Nathan Johnson. He has been a huge friend of the city. He's been an excellent person to work with, and he's still very city friendly, so we're going to meet with him. We're meeting with our current state rep, Julie Johnson, and then our second representative, state rep, Ben Baumgardner, who represents Denton County. And by the way, he had dinner at Anna Mia's on Friday night. So he's already moving into the area. I saw his car there. He parked his state official truck right in front of the restaurant. I looked him up. So I'm going to send him a note and invite him back down. And then that afternoon, we're going to have a meeting with our current state senator, Tan Parker. And Julie has introduced a proclamation for us, and when they read that, will be subject to change. And then we do have an opportunity to attend the House Ways and Means Committee. That would be the committee that would hear any changes that would impact State Rule 3.334. And the chair of that one is Morgan Meyer, who is no friend of local control. A little bit of my opinion on some of those, by the way. So anybody have any questions? Crystal has been the one that's done all the work putting the agenda together and trying to herd all the cats together. So if you are planning to attend, let her know. She can help you out with suggestions or travel arrangements or advice. And we will be down there with the school board and the Chamber of Commerce. They're all going to be there the same day.
This is the same day event, right? Just
Yes.
Go down there in the morning, come back.
Yes, sir. Or you can go down the night before. It's a long day.
Von Lane.
All right. Just anybody have any other questions?
Everybody going? Are you going? Mark, are you going?
Don't know yet.
I'm a maybe, and I was just trying to figure out what travel, but we can talk travel later. I was just trying to figure out what people were doing. A lot of times we leave the morning of, but
Don?
Yes.
Kevin?
I'm in.
Were you asking me something?
Huh?
Were you asking me if I was going?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my intent.
Okay.
I need to be stronger than that.
Huh?
I need to be stronger than that. Come on.
Are you going?
We talked about this.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, you also get for driving together.
We're supposed to be riding together.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Was that you?
We're not going to make it.
All right. Listen, thanks for everyone's attention and support. If you guys can see a way to go down there, I'd love to have you attend. It does help to when we visit. Sir?
Are you going the night before?
I am.
Okay.
You're going Wednesday night?
Yeah. I'm not good at driving at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, not either.
I just can't handle it.
Listen, Mike was saying I take up Von Lane. That's the bus.
All right.
Done it twice.
The time is 6:57 and we're at the end of work session. We will move into the city council chambers for the regular session of the city council, which will begin promptly at 7:30.
Can you hear me okay?
What time is it there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. The time is 7:30 p.m., and we're moving into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. As a reminder, any persons wishing to speak during the citizens' appearance must sign the appropriate register outside our council chambers and list your address. Tonight, for our invocation, we have a youth minister from the Coppell Congregation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Adam Polson. We'll give our invocation, and then we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing. Adam?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank Thee for this day and for the freedoms we've been blessed with, and thank Thee for all the people that have come here today, and please bless that they'll be blessed with wisdom and understanding and be guided to make decisions best for the city and its citizens. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. And as an FYI, we do have Mayor Pro Tem Bijou Matthew joining us from India tonight by Zoom.
Hello.
4 in the morning or something?
Mayor Pro Tem, what time is it there for you?
It's 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
Oh. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5 on our agenda is a proclamation. And so if I can get members of our allies and community and other interested parties to join me down front, please. Council, for your consideration. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by people of African descent to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas in 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson initiated Black History Week, and for many years, the second week of February was chosen to celebrate the contributions and achievements of Black people in the United States. And whereas in 1976, as a part of this country's bicentennial, Black History Week was expanded and became Black History Month and is now celebrated all over North America. Whereas we celebrate the diversity of Black individuals in Coppell, Texas, our nation, and the state, whether they identify as African, African American, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, or Black, and whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the city of Coppell continues to work toward becoming a more inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are recognized and respected for their contributions and potential contributions to the community, to the state, and our country and the world. And whereas the city of Coppell is proud to honor the history and contributions of Black individuals in our community throughout our state and nation. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the city of Coppell, do hereby proclaim the month of February as Black History Month, In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Coppell to be affixed this 14th day of February 2023. Council? Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve a proclamation celebrating the month of February as Black History Month and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second by Councilmember John. Any discussion? Any comments? Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were pointing at each other. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Mr. Henderson, thank you so much for being here and all dressed up. And I just want to say that if you could relay the message to, God, I'm blanking out. I always see her here and she's not here. Joanne's not here. So if you could reach out to her and say, I'm disappointed that she's not here, but again, celebrating Black History Month. It's a history that I think that we should all be aware of, and I'm glad that we're part of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Brianna Hinojosa-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you all for being here and for helping to represent the community. I think it's, like, as Councilmember John June just mentioned, I think it's important for us to make sure that we are doing whatever we can as a community to be inclusive, because we are a very diverse community. So thank you all so much for being here and celebrating Black History Month with us.
Thank you very much. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Long, Hinojosa-Smith, Carol Nevels, Jen, Matthew Hill, in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. So does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Oh, sure.
Just be careful, this thing is very live.
Worthy allies and community, we welcome you to join us in all of these proclamations and these events. It's an opportunity for us to connect and create the sense of belonging that we so get to enjoy here in Coppell. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance. Persons wishing to speak must sign the register and list their address. Presentations by individuals shall be limited to 2 minutes each. However, your time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. Persons signed up to speak will be called in the order that they signed up. No attacks, either personal or public, by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, the mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberations from the City Council due to the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Once the timer sounds at 2 minutes, the City Secretary will cut in and make the request to the Mayor and the City Council if they would like to extend the speaker's time for another 2 minutes. We do have one person signed up to speak. Oh, I'm sorry, we have more than. We have 2 people signed up to speak. The first one is Zari St. Jean. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address.
Hello, council members, mayor. My name is Zari St. Jean. I live at 3279 Scotch Creek Road. Originally, I thought it was Coppell, but it's Dallas County now, I guess, or something. Y'all know the zoning thing. I seriously wanted to take a moment in honor of what Dr. Carter G. Woodson stood for and what he once said. We have a wonderful history behind us. If you are unable to demonstrate to the world that you have this record, the world will say to you, you are not worthy to enjoy the blessings of democracy or anything else. It is such an honor to stand as a witness on this day in Coppell, Texas history, a day marked for love and all the love I have felt volunteering with the Coppell Community Garden and Coppell Community School District. Coppell so much reminds me of my hometown of Eatonville, Florida, the oldest Black municipality in the United States of America. And I personally thank you, Mayor West, and the council members for signing this proclamation. thank you so much for your time. My name again is Zari St. Jean. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and speaking to us tonight. The second person signed up to speak this afternoon or this evening is Todd Tarkington. Todd? Please state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Todd Tarkington. I live at 981 Red Wing Drive. All right. Thank you, council members and mayor, for allowing me to speak. I'm aware in the work session that you guys today spoke and talked about, well, we're given a presentation in regards to revitalization of the dog park. But I'm here today to continue to discuss issues with the dog park in regards to safety issues that we continue to communicate to the Parks and Recreation Department, and we have requested repeatedly for meetings with people to the dog park so that they could actually see these issues. I continue to be informed that these issues are taken care of, but yet due to the lack of communication, due to the lack that we're actually not meeting out there and looking at the issues or even communicating properly, they continue to be unaddressed. So I asked for City Council to use your stewardship to at least guide the Parks and Recreation Department to help us with the current issues. We still have fencing issues. Every one of you were emailed a picture today of an area of the fence that's wide open. I continue to try to communicate with the Parks and Recreation Department, but they are not giving me any details as to what things are being addressed. I spoke with Vicki the day before her reception, and she expressed to me that there were things happening, but once again, Parks and Recreation will not disclose any of that information to me or discuss it with me. So I asked for you guys to help me with our communications. We wish to work with the Parks and Recreation Department, and we'd like to see the dog park become a safer place and be a place that all of us would be comfortable with taking our pets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming out and speaking to us tonight. Item number 7 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and is generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council actions. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. As a note for our consent agenda, the minutes of the January 27th, 28th workshop will be the only minutes for approval tonight. The minutes from the January 24th will be considered for approval at the February 28th meeting. And the reason for this is that the January 10th meeting minutes have already been previously approved. So, council, with your consideration, I'll need an amendment to item number A. Other than that, is there anything you would like to pull from the agenda? Yes. Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda items A through E. And then, do we want to motion and second and then amend it, or do we want to amend it during this motion?
Just go ahead and amend it.
All right. With the amendment of, on consent agenda item A, consider approval of the minutes January 27th, 28th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. All in favor?
Long, Smith, Carol, Nevels, Jones, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. That is the end of our consent agenda, and we actually have no items for council consideration tonight, so we'll move directly into the city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 things to report. Mobilization has begun on the Morrow Road Boardwalk project, and DART is set to begin construction on the beams across South Beltline on February 22nd. Their work will be done at night.
Thank you very much. Item number 9 is the mayor and council reports. I have 3 items. The filing period for this upcoming May 6th election is now open through Friday, February 17th 2023 at 5 p.m. Visit the city's election page for more information. And our Tri-City areas, which includes Coppell, Louisville, and Flower Mound, will be hosting a regional neighborhood summit from 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, February 18th at the Life Safety Park, 820 South Coppell Road. Free coffee and breakfast will be provided. RSVPs are required and can be submitted through the Town of Flower Mound's website at www.flower-mound.com. Last item for me is join the City of Coppell for a meeting to discuss our preliminary plans to construct an additional fire station at 157 South Moore Road, which is next to Austin Elementary. The addition of Fire Station Number 5 will help the Coppell Fire Department safeguard the lives and property of our residents while maintaining service standards. This meeting will be held on Thursday, February 23rd, beginning at 6 p.m. in the Austin Elementary cafeteria. Item number 10 are public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. Do we have any public service announcements? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 11. We had no executive session, so there were no actions necessary from that. And very simply, I think we're going to set a record tonight. Item number 12.
Like a few more hours.
Councilmember John is making some comments about our remote mayor pro tem, so we'll move on and go on to item number 12. There being no further business before this council, we're adjourned at 7:46 p.m.
He's getting off too easy.
Tell Councilor